This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show and happy Thanksgiving from Big Brother. Just in time for the holidays, we have another train derailment. And of course, all the families that were planning on spending time together or having a turkey or whatever people might do during the Thanksgiving holiday these days, I don't know, probably dressing up in the opposite gender and probably running around the home, being prideful. I don't know what people do these days because every day things change. But just in time for the holidays, we have a train derailment. And of course, what does that mean? Well, it means mass evacuations. So Big Brother was coming to the door of residents in Kentucky in Rockcastle County and telling them, hey, guess what? You got to leave your home. Take the turkey out of the oven. And guess what? We're going to go lock you into a high school gymnasium, right? And sooner or later, of course, that'll be the FEMA camps. It might be in Kentucky, might not be for this situation, but this is going to be a way of life for all of us in the future. And you might say, well, why are there more and more train derailments? I've covered on numerous channels all these train derailments that have been happening. Obviously, for those of you who have actually sat back and thought about it, we've never seen so many train derailments before, right? It's not normal to see the things we saw in Palestine, Ohio, where there was giant black smokes of cloud in the sky. Well, that's, of course, because they're using chemical warfare against the civilians in America. And how can they do that without anyone being suspicious of them? Well, just take trains and run them off the tracks, right? Because we're told that that's a normal thing. It's interesting that all these train derailments are happening, but none of them actually happen on trains that are carrying people for the most part. Just seems like they're always conveniently carrying chemicals, and they're always conveniently by a water supply. Because, of course, this occurred in Rockcastle County. And where's Rockcastle County? And what's in Rockcastle County? Well, the Rockcastle River, which is about 55 miles long. And this river provides a lot of sea life, a lot of fish for people to fish, and, of course, drinking water, because that's what this is really all about. A lot of these train derailments that are releasing chemicals into the atmosphere seem to be occurring by water supplies, right? You know, something we take for granted because I guess a lot of people this day and age think water supply, like Coca-Cola is their water. I don't know if people don't think about it, but this is the world we live in now, right? So you have the water supplies constantly being contaminated and making it undrinkable, which is something they're doing by design. So you have to go to them for water eventually. Of course, that water will be filled with even extra fluoride, and as if they don't put enough in it already. And of course, you can't live without water, so thus they'll be able to use that as a tool to get people to comply to their enslavement society, which is exactly where we're headed. So here's the clip of what happened in Kentucky with the train derailment. It's almost like, well, it's deja vu. It's the same thing, right? And of course, keep in mind, Big Brother coming to the door, nobody's suspicious about all these train derailments happening. It's just the new norm, and the more they do these things, the more conditioned people get to accepting it and thinking that it's actually normal. And of course, the government never addresses these things, because why would they? Nobody's suspicious of the government, apparently. They're just trying to figure out if men can have babies or not these days. So here's the clips.
Breaking news out of Kentucky tonight, where the governor has declared a state of emergency after a multiple car train derailment in Rockcastle County. At least 15 train cars are involved. Several are leaking. One of the train cars was carrying sulfur. It's unclear what caused the derailment, and at least one person has been injured but is expected to be okay.
First, our top news story this morning. Governor Andy Beshear has declared a state of emergency after a train derailment and chemical spill in Rockcastle County. It happened around 2:30 yesterday afternoon between Mullen Station and Livingston. Authorities say 15 cars derailed in the remote area, including 2 cars carrying sulfur that spilled out. One person was treated at the scene for minor injuries. Fortunately, no one was seriously hurt.
But hundreds are being forced to leave their homes due to a half-mile evacuation order. We spoke with one woman taking shelter at Rockcastle County Middle School. She says her family was just sitting down for dinner when she got the news they had to leave.
I got so aggravated. I said words that I probably shouldn't have. But then I realized when Brother Jason Medley picked us up that somebody does care. At least they cared enough to come and get us. At least they care. So we got a lot to be thankful for. We think about a dinner, but I think that our lives mean so much more. So yeah, this Thanksgiving, I'm not going to forget this. I'm really not. I'm really not.
Cots have been brought in for those folks who are staying at the middle school. Leaders with emergency management say residents are being given the option to stay at a hotel as well. It's unclear when they'll be able to return to their homes. The cause of the derailment is still under investigation.
The night before a big holiday,
I just cooked everything. It's like, we're having Thanksgiving tomorrow. Guess we're not.
no one in Rockcastle County planned on spending it in a middle school cafeteria.
We were in our homes. It was quiet. The next thing you hear is wham, 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 3 hard knocks.
Cindy Bradley and her Livingston neighbors were asked to evacuate their homes.
And she says, you've got to get out. You've got to go now. It's bad.
She spent Wednesday afternoon at Rockcastle County Middle School waiting to hear exactly what was happening. In a statement, CSX Rail explained at least 15 train cars derailed north of town, 2 of which, carrying sulfur, had lost some of their contents. Evelyn Gray was home when it happened and says the chemicals triggered an asthma attack.
It just hit me so hard I couldn't hardly breathe.
She says she's better now, but concern is running high among neighbors about what's next.
Our homes are empty. People are scared. There's elderly people with oxygen. People needed medicine if they didn't bring it. It's just a scary situation all the way around.
Still, people are finding reasons to be thankful.
The good Lord's took care of us.
So again, this occurred in Rockcastle County. You could look into the Rockcastle River and how large this river is, about a 55-mile river. A lot of things in this river that are, people need to remember when it comes to these water supplies as well, like these rivers that are getting contaminated, that there's a lot of fish, right? Remember that, because, these are things that they know people are going to become. When this stuff goes down, people are going to think to themselves, well, I can go hunt, I can go fish, I can go back to the way things used to be. I don't need the government, etc. Well, they're going to make sure that you can't. If you didn't see the video I did a few days ago talking about how, the zombie deer virus, these are things that are becoming more and more normal. So they're making, with the zombie deer virus, they're telling you that these deers are now turning into zombies. They're showing you clips of these deer standing like literally deer in headlights. And they're saying, hey, you probably don't want to eat that meat. We're not going to put that into the supply chain, right? And they just continue to do things like that over and over again. Say, hey, these cows, you shouldn't be eating this cow meat. This is contaminated. That's contaminated. And they just kill the supply chain off. Thus, they make it so that you can't even go out and hunt and you can't go out and fish, right? Oh, and you can't go out and get your own water either. This is all done by design. And it's done in places where you would never make people are like, some small hick town in Kentucky, what's the big deal, right? But of course, the large water supply is right over there, okay? Of course, same thing with Palestine, Ohio, and the Ohio River being right over there, right? They don't mention these things. The mainstream media does not talk about the water supply. And if they do come in, they go, oh, that's just a conspiracy. Everything's fine. But then you look at all the videos uploaded by people who live in the area, and it looks like something out of a horror film. The water's just got big black chunks in it. You could see that the water is clearly foggy and disgusting, and you would never in a million years drink it. Thus, they get what they want, and they accomplish what they want through all these things. So, on top of that, they've also, as you heard in the clip, declared a state of emergency after the train derailment. The state of, happy Thanksgiving from Big Brother. State of emergency, train derail, And they know, too, when they do these things over the holidays that nobody's really paying attention. Yeah, everybody's, not working and stuff, but is anyone really working in today's society? But, people are obviously doing stuff. They have travel plans, or they're going to family members' home, they're eating, they're watching football. So it's a perfect time to do that. It's a perfect time for a border psyop. These things all work out really well for them, because you might hear the story in the background, but you're like, I don't want to hear about the news. I don't want to hear about this stuff. I'm trying to have my Thanksgiving dinner. There's enough bad stuff going on in the world, right? We all see and know people that, they just try to ignore these types of things. And of course, most people don't zero in on what's really happening with these stories. Again, if there was they think of chemical bombs, they expect to see a giant nuke in their backyard. These are all things that they've done through programming. So when they do stuff like this, nobody thinks like it's an attack from within, or they don't think about the food supply. They're just like, oh, a train derailed. You're being a conspiracy theorist. It's like it's almost like a link in between the government and the civilians, where they have, hey, here's something that actually happened as an accident, and then you automatically in your brain just dismiss it as an actual, deliberate train derailment, right? If the government actually was sending out bombs in the air, whatever, people out there would be suspicious about it. So they do these types of things and they get away with it, right? I mean, I've mentioned on the website, the protocols of the elders of bagels and stuff like that in their books. They constantly talk about being a third party, doing something through something else, and it makes them not guilty of any of these things, et cetera, et cetera. They're all taught all this type of stuff in their secret societies, and how to do this, how to get away with these things. But of course, they don't need to actually try to get away with this stuff now, because nobody's thinking anymore. So when they hear stuff, it's like, oh, yeah, right. Well, how hard would it be to have all these trains that keep getting derailed? They're just carrying massive chemicals, and they all seem to be crashing near big water supplies. Whether, people are like, that's not a big water supply, the Rock Cat. Well, it's, part of the Ohio River. Ohio River seems to be a big target because it's a big source of water, right? We had the Delaware River in Philly with some of these bombs that went off, bridge bombs, et cetera, that I've covered in the past. So anyway, the governor declared a state of emergency after train derailment in Rockcastle County. The state of emergency allows the state to activate resources, including Kentucky Emergency Management and the Kentucky National Guard. Kentucky Emergency Management officials confirmed to us that the towns of Livingston and Piney Branch have been evacuated. Workers scrambled to set up an emergency Red Cross shelter at the Rockcastle County Middle School, where you saw some of those people. They got herded into that, and they're like, I'm just glad that I'm okay. And, instead of being like, this is bullcrap, okay? Not just the fact that they're just the whole thing. Like, if you become desensitized, you start thinking it's normal for trains to crash and have chemical spills. So people are like, I'm just thankful that, they came and they rescued me and they got us out of here and we're all safe. Okay, well, that is a good mindset to have, to be grateful to be alive, etc. But if you found out that the trains are being derailed on purpose, would that be the way you feel? Or would you be like, WTF? Why are they doing this? Let's go stop them. That's the mindset people should have. Instead, they've become so desensitized. It's like, oh, a train derailed, a chemical spilled. Oh, okay, right? You do it over and over and over and over and over, and your brain suddenly starts thinking that this is normal, and it starts accepting this stuff. There's that basic mind control they do with everything, right? They do repetition, and they desensitize people with these stories. They do it one after the other after the other. Now it's just normal for trains to derail and dump chemicals into the water, or just dump chemicals all over the place and evacuate people from their homes, right? Each time this story happens, people are getting thrown out of their homes, getting evacuated and herded into whether it's a school, an abandoned building, or eventually a FEMA camp, right? It becomes the new normal. You'll continue to see this stuff. So this is in Palestine, Ohio. As you heard the news clips, I don't need to read more, but they have the state of emergency that's going on there, and they continue to do this stuff day in and day out. People just go, yeah, let me see what's over there. They go, I've never heard of Rockcastle County. That's not really a big deal, right? And then this happens over and over and over. We've never seen this amount of train derailments, specifically non-commuter trains, like cargo trains that are carrying chemicals like this. This is not normal, okay? This is what people need to do, is if they were actually thinking, right, and on just like not sound asleep, walking around, going through the motions, they would hear these stories and go, okay, did we just hear this? This is not normal. My 50 years of life, 20 years of life, 15 years of life, however old you are. I've never heard this many stories about train derailments, especially, all over the place. But when these things continually happen on a local scale, you aren't going to hear about it nationally. Palestine got national because of how big that cloud was, and then how pissed off people were about the government's reaction to it. But since then, there have continually been these types of stories, and they're just national, so nobody hears about it. And because the one big one was out there, the Palestine one, people now think that this is normal because of the Palestine one, right? So they had the one big one, the one national one, so the people become desensitized, like, oh yeah, like Palestine, oh okay, yeah, that's a normal thing for the train to derail. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And for it to be carrying chemicals, and then these people come in hazmat suits and they round you up. I mean, it kind of reminds you of the thing that happened a couple years ago, right? See how they're all connected to each other. You can see a lot of those hazmat suits in the future, that's for sure. That's how they're going to contain you, et cetera, with all their fake news psyops. But just another one, folks. Another one bites the dust. Another train. Rest in peace to the train, of course. Trains' lives matters. I'm sure they'll. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I mean, the whole thing is it's absurd. It's absurdity how they're attacking us, how they're going after. And they're like, these people are crazy conspiracy nuts. It's disinformation, et cetera. Because they want you to think all these things are normal. And eventually, like, all this stuff will come to fruition that we've all claimed they were trying to do. And people still won't believe it. And they'll still be like, oh, you weren't right about that. You weren't right. That was just a train derailment. Because what do you expect them to come out and be like, yeah, we blew up a train so we could poison your water supply. Yeah, because they're going to come out and do that, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, we're actually all we're all mass murderers and psychopaths. We're blowing up trains. Yeah, there'd be a revolution. So why would they ever confess to that? They're just going to continue to do it this way. And all the suckers out there are going to continue to call people like us conspiracy theorists because they can get away with it when they do it like this. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.